Welcome to the City Council's Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Today is Monday, June 14th. I'd like to welcome our members of the subcommittee, Councilors Keefe, Novoselsky, Powers, and Viscontis. Can we take a roll call?
Roll call of the members of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Councilor Keefe.
Present.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers. Absent. Councilor Visconti.
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambuto. Absent. And Chairman Morbido.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First item.
I'd also like to acknowledge the council members who are here in attendance. Councilor Giannino, birthday boy, and Councilor Arthur Guinasso, and Councilor McKenna.
First item on tonight's agenda is Council Order 20-370, an ordinance relative to transient vendors.
So the maker of this motion is Councilor Keefe. So just a few items to take note of. Transient vendors and door-to-door have been broken down into their own chapters, 5.13, and transient vendors 5.12, door-to-door respectively. The rules and regulations for transient vendors is completely new, and the license fee was reduced from $2,000 to $500. The fee is only a suggestion, and the City Council can amend it to whatever they see fit. There are no changes in the rules and regulations for door-to-door solicitors. Only the section numbers have been changed, and it has its own chapters. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you bringing this up, and I know that this has been discussed at public hearing. The major reasons for my want for this change, there was a lot to clean up, as you can see. The door-to-door, I know that there's not many people in the city that really appreciate or enjoy that, so we definitely didn't want to reduce any restrictions on the door-to-door. But what it came down to was in the middle of the pandemic, we're in the middle of businesses having struggles trying to produce different opportunities on their own property. So things like Christmas tree sales on an empty lot that really had not a lot of use was a $2,000 fee to potentially do a Christmas tree lot for a month. And you have to sell a lot of trees to make enough money just to pay for the trees and the staff, never mind a $2,000 fee for approximately 3 weeks. So I thought that we could amend that to $500. That would be more reasonable. And of course, if we found that there was a more lucrative business or something that was not as, that was more of a generator of cash flow, that we could review that on a special permit. But I just wanted to make sure that we didn't totally disable people from being able to use their property, especially given the taxes and trying to keep their businesses afloat. So I thought that was reasonable, and I also thought working with Madam Clerk Melnick, cleaning up this ordinance was something that was slightly overdue. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Keefe. Also, President Zambuto is here in attendance. Welcome. Any members on the subcommittee have any comments on this ordinance? Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I correct in saying that this last package we got in red is the official changes?
So,
I don't know, because I
point
got
of
this a while
information.
ago.
Point of information. Any language in red is new.
Is new, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that, and I think I said this with the public hearing, that we don't allow a transit permit close to a local business person that sells the same product. Whether it be 500 feet, 1,000 feet, or something like that. But I remember back when I was on the council in '78, we had this problem, and somebody set up a flower market at Northgate, and there was a florist directly across the street. And that is why the $2,000 in there. Now, this is almost 40 years ago, and this is held up since then. I don't mind the change, and I understand that, but I just want to make sure that the local business person is not affected by anybody setting up something temporarily near their store. So that's my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other members? So on that, Council Novoselsky, so I don't think it's going to affect any businesses. Now, keep in mind, the city council does have the authority to change this ordinance at any time, make changes. Okay. If there's no other comments, we'll take a roll call. Yes.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council on an ordinance relative to transient vendors? Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers is absent. Counselor Visconti?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Keefe? I'm sorry, Chairman Morabito?
Yes.
Yes, this ordinance will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation. Next council order on the agenda is an ordinance relative to baiting procedures for rodent control.
Councilor Sereno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty straightforward. This ordinance seeks to just kind of strengthen the baiting ordinance in the city. What we were finding, this is in response to an issue whereby the company that was a subcontractor of the city opened up a public street and initially didn't bait, and it took the city having to contact them and forcing them essentially to bait. And there were some issues surrounding that particular matter. So I dove in and kind of just tightened up the ordinance, and that is what we have in front of us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other members of the subcommittee have any comments or objections?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, I know it's been a long time since we've been reviewing these things. And I remember when we had the public hearing, I did mention about the time frame. Did we amend that to make it 4 weeks? And through you to Councilor Sereno.
Well, I
Councilor
think we
Sereno.
would amend it in subcommittee, but I would be, I think absolutely, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we, 2 weeks is really not a lot of time to bait, especially when they're doing a demolition. Because rodents find other places to go and then tend to come back to their place after the baiting is finished. So I'd like to make sure that it's extended to, that there's 4 weeks prior to any demolition. And I think you had it during and after, Counselor, if I'm correct?
Correct. So I had 21 days. So you would want it an additional 7.
Right.
beyond.
Would want to make that 28
So the
days.
city clerk will amend that to 28 days. Because currently, the legislation stands that we have to bait 2 weeks in advance. So what this ordinance will do, it will allow baiting prior and afterwards, after construction. So,
Actually, I believe it's during also.
in
Was during, make sure that they
Yes.
upgraded the bait?
If you want me to read it, I can.
please.
Any agreement made, this is as amended by the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee as of now. Any agreement made between the City of Revere and any contractor shall include provisions for baiting under the following schedule: 28 days before the start of, through the duration of, and 28 days after the completion of or at the discretion of the health agent, any construction, renovation, development, demolition, or conversion projects of buildings. Failure to do so will be punishable by a fine of $250 per day per contractor. And the other sections subsequent after that also will be changed to 28 days.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think,
Mr. President.
I think that, it's great to have longer baiting sessions. I think at some point, it gets ridiculous. I think three weeks before demolition is more than enough time, and 3 weeks after demolition is more than enough time. At some point, we're going to make this, if not ridiculous, redundant. You don't need it that long. 3 weeks before demolition is plenty. And if you're going to keep them out there 4 weeks before demolition, it makes it so the traps will be full, and I think it's overkill. So let's compromise, and let's say 3 weeks before and 3 weeks after. And I don't care how much longer, if there's continued demolition or whatever, but I think any more than 3 weeks before is absurd.
So, City Clerk, if this is correct, if we agree to Councilor Zambuto's amendment, there'll be 3 weeks of baiting
Before.
afterwards and 3 weeks prior, throughout, actually, right, prior
The
and then throughout.
proposed ordinance that was proposed by Councilor Sereno did provide for 3 weeks, 21 days.
Yeah, so,
So that's what's being considered right now by the committee, but there is a proposed amendment offered by Councilor Novoselsky in committee to make it 28 days.
so I would like to have the subcommittee take a vote on whether they want to add the amendment or not.
Mr. Chairman. If I may.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, with all due respect to Councilor Zambuto, Councilor, I am probably one city councilor that has more demo done in the last 2 years, and you don't have to hear the phone calls I'm getting from neighbors before, during, not necessarily after, but I get the phone calls, and honestly, I see the rodents. I have seen the rodents long time before running around. So the sooner we get to them, the better. I don't mind the after, reducing the after, but the before, I'm insistent upon it. You know, I think it's very, very strong to do it. And the baiting company goes in once a week and replaces the bait, so you're not gonna get any, dead rodents in the bait box. So, I feel very strongly on this 4 weeks, and I've even had prior developers do it upon my request, and they have done it, and they had no problem with it. So, I think the 4 weeks is
All
strong.
right, Mr. Chairman, so my
So-
colleague feels so adamant about this, I'm probably not going to win this fight, even though I've got 40 years of construction experience.
Okay.
I'm not going to get
Let's
into
not-
that.
Mr.
But
We're not gonna
I'll
have the-
go
I
for the 4
got
weeks.
Okay,
30 I got
guys.
30 years,
Okay.
Counselor,
I'll
so we're
go
almost
for
I
the-
think
even.
I have the
Wait a
floor. I'm the
minute.
chairman.
Can I finish my point?
Yes, but you don't have the floor until I say you have the floor.
Okay.
So, Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. So the bottom line is here, I'll go for the 4 weeks before, and we'll stick to the 3 weeks after. How's that for a compromise? Great.
Maker of the motion?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Councilor Guinasso.
See how we get along
I
here?
was just going to point out, they were talking 28 days, Council, and he wants to decrease it to 42 days. So the math doesn't coincide here. I'm saying, the hell's he talking about? Mr. President, I'm the accountant.
Okay.
3 before, 3 after is 42 days. 28 days is what they agreed upon. You wanted to decrease it. You increased it. So I like the increase better.
Any
As
more?
long as we're getting along here, I love it.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, getting the city business done and getting along. So if we can take a roll call and vote it out favorably as amended, unfavorably, or
Shall the
favorably?
Legislative Affairs offer a favorable recommendation on the amended baiting procedures ordinance? This is going to be 28 days prior, 21 days after. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Voting yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Visconti.
Yes.
Yes. Council President Zambuto.
Yes?
Yes, and Chairman Morabito.
Yes.
The baiting procedures ordinance as amended will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation. Next item is Council Order 21-128, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the city council request the state delegation to amend the open meeting law through legislation in which translation of multiple foreign languages are used in the notification process on all spectrums of medium used to comply with the current legislation.
Was there any communication from the counselor on his recommendations on whether he wanted to keep it in committee or?
No, I haven't heard.
Okay. Since Councilor Rotundo is absent, we'll keep it in committee. Thank you. This subcommittee is adjourned.
Good evening. Calling to order the zoning subcommittee meeting of Monday evening, June 14th, 2021. Madam Clerk?
Roll call of the zoning subcommittee members, Councilor Janino? Here. Here, Councilor Guanasso?
Here.
Here, Councilor Sereno?
Here.
Here, Councilor Visconti?
Here.
Here, Council President Zambudo? Here, and Chairman Keefe.
Here.
Here, quorum is present. First special permit application on the agenda is 21-169, Louis Rubino, 744 Broadway, seeking to extend a non-conforming use to enable the use of outside patio space for up to 16 guests.
Mr. Rubino? Mr. Rubino? No? Well, let's table that matter, and then we can go to the next one, and if Mr. Rubino shows up, we can go to that.
Next special permit on the agenda is 21-170 on the application of Rod Rivera, 97 Beach Street, Malden, Mass., seeking permission from the Revere City Council to alter and extend the existing non-conforming office use to a non-conforming fast food takeout use to enable the appellant to operate an ice cream and smoothie shop at 54 Yeaman Street.
Mr. Rivera? There you go.
All right, thank you. So I'm Rod Rivera. I'm the designer construction supervisor for 54 Yemen Street, and I'm speaking on behalf of the owners, Daniel Lemus and his wife.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to tell us about the property or the intentions? I know that there was a public hearing and there was a little bit of feedback both ways.
Correct. So the original building was an appraisal office, and when the gentleman, Daniel, bought it, he had an idea to do something else to it. And then they came down to the conclusion they would like to do an ice cream shop. The ice cream shop is basically a small area where they're going to be prepping the ice cream to order. And it's not something that's going to drag a lot of traffic, just whoever walks by and they want to have an ice cream, or from the neighbors rather. So it's something, it's a small place, and they want to make something nice in that area.
Thank you. Any of the members of the zoning subcommittee have any questions or comments on the property? Hearing and seeing none. I actually am, I'm the ward council of that area, so I did receive some feedback, and I just wanted to give you some of the opinions and the advice based on what I've received, but also some of the concerns that I would have. It is in the, it's in the RB district, so it's zoned for really residential only. Of course, there have been special permits granted. Clearly, that property had a special permit granted at one point in time so that it could be used for office space and commercial office space, which was an appraisal office. Prior to that, I think there was some form of a law office or accounting office, accounting firm. So quite frankly, for the last 15 or 16 years, the property's been nearly invisible to the residents and neighbors. It's had very little intrusion. And the property went in front of site plan review, and it was unfortunately, it was denied because of the reasons it was being used. Residential zoning was being turned into some sort of fast food, whether it was ice cream or yogurt or non-fat yogurt, smoothies. And, you know, which I mean, I love those types of businesses too. I think, you know, you go down Broadway, you go down Park Ave, Washington Ave, Shirley Ave. There's a lot of the main streets, Squire Road, et cetera, that I think can accommodate those. Even on the corners of some of those main streets that tend to go into the residential areas, I think that they're a little bit more accepted from the neighborhood. But this one here being really on the corner of Vane and Yeamans, it becomes more difficult because your entire base of neighbors are residents, are homes. And that's where I got a lot of the feedback that was difficult. So, you know, the only thing I really wanted to ask was, when your clients or the people that you're representing, when they were buying the property, did they recognize, and I know that, not that it matters, the property is very, very small. Is when they were buying it, did they realize that what the zoning was for and what potential uses they could have? Or was that something that they looked into before they bought the property?
Mr. Chairman, after you're done,
Sure.
when you're done.
Hello, my name is Consuelo. Basically, I know a lot of customers from the street, both the street. I spoke with them, and more of them, they were excited. When we bought the property, they know me because I have the store in Broadway. I also own the restaurant in Riviera Beach Boulevard, so a lot of people know us already. And our main idea when we got the place, because there's a big window, so I just imagine like the place with a window service, like Twist and Shake, something like that, but in a little scale, because it's gonna be less person, because we're talking about the beach and the street, right? So it will be totally different. But the neighbor next to us, they agree. I know the people who live next in the St. Jimmy Street, and they agree with. I just mentioned them about the idea, but so we can do something else. We're trying to look to do something because we're paying mortgage and almost for a year and close.
Yeah, totally agree, and I see your shirt, and I know your business on Broadway and on the beach has been well-reviewed, some really great foods. And
Yeah.
as you know, you're on Broadway, you're on a main strip that's really built for business traffic, and people, you're not really on top of housing. And even on the beach, in the area you're in, is mainly, it's a mix of retail and residential.
And we also work a lot with Uber Eats, Grubhub, and
Well,
most of
you're making-
because both of my business, they're small. I don't know if you know it, but they're small. So we work both mostly with deliveries or Uber Eats or something like that.
And again, that's good for business, but it's bad for a residential neighborhood. Think about Uber Eats pulling up every 5 minutes. I mean, if you're going to have a thriving business, it would be really intrusive on the neighborhood. So ultimately, that's my findings, and I looked up the ordinance, and I just wanted to make sure that you understood, because I want you to be able to have a good business. I wish that, sometimes when you're buying property, especially in residential areas, it's really important to look up the potential uses or even the skirt uses. But usually when we grant a special permit, just for zoning edification, especially special permits, the change shall not be substantially more detrimental than the current use. And you go from a law firm or an appraisal office that has virtually no traffic, it's really used for office space, to a high use, ice cream or food,
Yeah,
odors,
but
rubbish.
before that, it was a candy store. So it will be something similar. We also have the school in front of us, so we can figure out the way we can do like 1 or 2 parkings only. We don't need a lot. Most of my customers, they don't have cars.
Right.
They just walk.
Right.
Because most of them, they also live there. I also spoke with a lot, and it will be like any business. Some people's gonna be agreed, some they don't gonna be agreed.
Sure.
So most of my people, they support us because I also support them. I'm the kind of person who closed their business to go and help a person, and Joanne knows that because I helped her one time, and I didn't know her. He just asked me for help, and I didn't know her, and I just called my store, and I just opened the store, and I closed it, and I go to help her. I lose the whole day, and I don't care because I love to support the community.
Well,
And I feel the support too.
And you're right, and you do it, you come with a very good representation and reputation. I've already heard that, I've seen it, I know your business on Broadway and on the beach. And that's why it does pain me to feel this way, but I have to represent the residents that especially live in that area. And I always put myself, and just so you all know, I always put myself in the shoes of if I was that resident, or if I was that neighbor, and how would it feel. But Council President Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think you pretty much stated the reasons why I can't support this. But the most important part of a special permit is that it would be less detrimental than the original use. This does not meet that criteria. Unfortunately, listen, I know your reputation. You have a wonderful reputation. You run a wonderful business. This does not fit the neighborhood, and because you're so good at your business, this makes you less likely to be supported, because you will not be less detrimental to the neighborhood. So I cannot support you, and it's not personal, trust me.
I know.
I wish I could support you, but I can't support you in this location. It's just not doable. It does not fit the criteria for a special permit. And that's really what we're supposed to do up here, is look at that's the first thing. If you don't meet that criteria, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I can't support you in this endeavor, but that's the reason why.
And what if you have me like 3 or
Thank you,
6
Mr.
months to
Chairman.
try?
That's a good question, and I also want to put myself out there, myself personally, as the ward representative, and you have another business in my ward, so I want to create a great relationship, because you obviously care about the city and you want to do more, is